Burbex.
Oh, this place is sketchy. I think there's water on the floor. You got a torch? Got caught by 5 security guards. Oh, cool. They put us in handcuffs. It's so cold in here. Is that a motion detector on the ceiling? It's just gone red. This place is like a labyrinth. Wow, look at these huge wheels. These big rusty wheels that you can see here, they were part of the mechanisms which moved big cranes across the factory floor. It's kind of a big square shape. It looks a bit like those structures in the movie Tron, if you've seen that. Right now they kind of look chunky and old. All the rubber is rotting. So what Shanghai does to things, just rots it. Beautiful. This is a coal crushing machine. Actually, you can see it says 磨炭机2, which means that this was the second coal crushing machine. I imagine it grinds the coal down into little particles so that they burn easier. I'm not an expert on it though. Coming up on the newer parts of the factory now. Shanghai Dianji Guangzhi, Shanghai Machines Factory Production. It's a very old one. I'm a little bit nervous in this place today because last night I had a dream where I was on top of a building with Senzuri and we got caught by 5 security guards. They put us in handcuffs, but for some reason we were able to break the handcuffs and escape together. Still, I don't want any security guards catching us in here today. Something up there makes me a little bit anxious. There's some traffic lights up there. You see those? We've seen these generators before when we went to the power plant on Chongming Island. They're quite beautiful. It's very steampunk. Of course, if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you know that we've visited power plants before and we've seen these enormous coal-powered generators before, which generate the electricity in here. It looks very steampunk, almost like, you know, a 1950s UFO or something that's come down here and landed. One thing to remember here is that actually this power plant is very old, right? It goes right back to, you know, the 1950s when Chinese power plants were just kind of coming into operation, but it's been updated many, many times. It's been closed down for quite a long time now, but everything in here still kind of looks sparkly and new. This one's beautiful. Like I said, we're in the newer half of the plant, but if we look out of these windows just here, you can actually see the much older part, which is actively being demolished. I think there are some ideas though to renovate this area, maybe make it into some kind of museum, which is a trend which we've seen a lot more of maybe in the past 5 or 10 years here in Shanghai and also in China. For example, Capital Steel, which was a very gigantic steelworks which was built in Beijing and used to be home to 100,000 workers, is now being renovated into the Winter Olympics headquarters for next year's Winter Olympics. It shows you that there's a shift away from just building stuff new towards maybe something more sustainable, using older buildings. You can hear there's a lot of demolition going on behind us though. We actually have to be super cautious in this place because it's still kind of live. There's still electricity in here. It's not generating electricity, but it's still on the grid. There's some kind of control room over there. I wonder if we can get up to that crane booth there. Well, you know I love to press buttons, but I'm not sure I want to press these ones. Here's another of these massive generators. They've got these portholes here, portholes. It looks like in The Shape of Water. Have you seen The Shape of Water, where that monster is looking out from within the portholes? Coming up to the control room now. Look at all these records. This is the safety activities. I just found an empty can of Fox's Glacier Mints. These were my grandfather's favorite candy. Actually, I love this as well. I'd love some of these right now. Coming up on the control room now. Oh man, this place is insane. Look at all these control panels. It's so quiet in here. You can see in this room all the control panels and the electricity allocation. In here they would have actually been, you know, like knowing when to ramp up production or bring down production, and also how to allocate it within this district as well. When they call this a control room, they're really not joking. There would have been control over the entire plant just from this central room.
Hey, it's the big master control program everybody's been talking about.
It's kind of got that maybe 1960s, 1970s communist feel to it, even though it's only been abandoned since maybe the late 2000s. map. Look at that. Up here you can see the circuit board for the entire plant. If there were problems, the LEDs here would glow so that you knew where the problem was. Kind of reminds me of those scenes in the TV show Chernobyl when you find out where the different problems are in the plant. This is another Burbex first because I seem to just found a gas mask. Looks like this gas mask went over the head like this. I can't breathe in this thing, you see. Don't know what this thing was for, but look at the size of it, it's huge. Maybe an oxygen tank or something? Oh, I'm not sure I should have put that on. These tags all say 危险, that means dangerous. There's a gigantic vacuum cleaner there. Look at these old computers. Industrial computer. That's cool.
The computer. An extension of the human intellect. The NCOM 511, center of the most calculating intelligence on Earth, programmed by master control to survive by all means.
These are all the computer units. This is where all the storage and all the, like the mechanization of this power plant would have taken place. You can see the huge computer cabinets like this. I don't think they need to be this big anymore. You can think maybe back in the 90s, this would have been sophisticated equipment, and now it's just been left to rot. Look, these still have DVD drives in them. Intel Pentium 4. Not that long ago. Look at this beast. There's cupboards still full of junk here. Look, there's an old Motorola Walkie-Talkie. The rubber parts have actually started to dissolve. I don't know what causes that. And also some data tapes. What's the capacity on these tapes? This one says Win 2 on it. That might be Windows 2. How long ago was that? One of the things that people don't really realise about when old power stations and old facilities in general get updated is that you kind of have to retrofit everything. All these systems are still up and running and they could be very old systems. So you have to make patches and retrofits so that modern technology will work with older technology. The London Underground, for example, still has computer systems that were designed maybe 100 years ago. Not even computers at that time, just kind of mechanization which was designed 100 years ago. They often have to make retro hacks to get into that system, to control that system. That's why the London Underground is notoriously unreliable, because it has this mishmash of systems. Finding kind of retro parts as well can also be very, very tough. As you come and look around here, there's plenty to choose from. We just found this enormous bowl structure. It reminds me of maybe that ship from The Day the Earth Stood Still. Not the new one with Keanu Reeves, like the 1950s one. This thing is amazing. Maybe this is where we could climb into our UFO. There's dogs around it though, we should be careful. Some kind of massive conveyor belt. This sign says, be careful of the conveyor belt. It's probably a good idea. Let's go upstairs and take a look at it. You can see this is the conveyor room. There's belts on my left, belts on my right, and all the coal would have been moving along these belts. It goes down into the machines below where it gets crushed and then turned into power. We've seen these in a lot of power plants, also in factories as well. This one is actually quite beautiful though. I think you can probably tell what this sign means. If we look out the windows here, those two green gas tanks I've actually explored before. You can find that exploration in the video in the top right hand corner. We've got to be careful as well though, because it seems like there's a police car right down there. Actually, this place is being converted into a museum very, very slowly. And if we were to go down to the bottom of this, we would get to the area which they're turning into a ticket office. We can see here that it says Wenming Shangyan. Now, that means like civilized production. During the 60s and 70s and the 80s, when you had big production plants like this, it was very important that your danwei, now a danwei is like your work unit, should be civilized, which basically means civilized in terms of, like communist ideals. If you were considered civilized, then there would be a lot of perks, there would be a lot of benefits in your job. If you weren't civilized, then life was a little bit more difficult. In fact, above their doors it said Wenming Jia, which means like a civilized home. These days people don't take that so seriously, but if you call somebody Bu Wenming De or uncivilized, it's actually quite offensive. So be careful with that one. You can see basically this whole neighborhood is going through demolition. Lots of these houses are more than 100 years old. Whoa, what? Holy shit, that's a good view. Activation, dust fan exhaust, reverse dust fan exhaust. The really incredible thing about this plant is that we're right next to the river. It's a prime location. It's got an incredible view and we're so high up, so it gives us a really great vantage point. Take a look out at these windows, the view is amazing. Feels like this whole thing is falling down. This beautiful green machine here is actually like the extraction fans. All the coal would have been coming up and down those belts. There'd be a lot of dust in the air. So these suction pumps would have been sucking the dust out of the air so that maybe it could be reused somewhere else. Right now though, it's a little bit shaky. Fucking hell.